I'm swearing to you, I am not lying. I am swearing on my aunt's grave and my uncle's that I did not do anything. I would never put my hands on it.
This is Melissa Kalasinski, and she's about to go down as the most evil caregiver in history because right now she thinks she can manipulate the police after taking the life of Ben Kingen.
You can't manipulate out of this. You really can't.
But unbeknownst to her, there's evidence proving her story doesn't add up.
You know, we actually have very good photographs of his injury.
If I dropped somebody from the change table, I would be stoked and crying, freaking out, but I would go and tell.
I had nothing to do with it. I never put my hands on that person.
And as detectives dig deeper, they'll uncover disturbing details that would turn Melissa's story against her.
You just said you don't recall.
I did not. I just don't want to lose my job.
I'm clueless. Why did I get this? Why am I? Seems like I did something wrong.
On January 14th, 2009, Ben Kingen was found deceased in Miney Subi Daycare in Lincolnshire suburb of Chicago. His caregiver, Melissa Kalasinski, who alerted the rest of the facility via intercom, found that he wasn't breathing and was also foaming at the mouth. When police started investigating the case, it didn't take long to discover that there were lots of inconsistencies between what the autopsy revealed and what Melissa told first responders. And so they had no choice but to invite her into the interrogation room to set the record straight.
How did you know there was a problem, like when you first called his name? Like
He was, we just tried waking him up.
But you were by yourself, right?
For not even a few seconds.
But you looked at him and you called his name?
Yeah, first time. I didn't even take my eyes off of
And what happened when you called his name?
The first time his eyes opened and I was responding.
And then what?
And then he, like a second later, he closed his eyes and I was just like, Ben, wake up, you know?
How far away were you from him at that time?
I would say from here to probably half of the door, in the first corner.
Yeah. And then you said, Ben, wake up.
Yeah.
And what happened?
He didn't wake up and that's when.
Did you go over what you do?
I checked him and everything and tried to see if he would respond, and then Crystal heard me.
Were you screaming for him to wake up? Or?
No, I was kind of raising my, not yelling, but trying to maybe see if he would hear me.
Did you shake him to see him?
A little bit, yeah.
When did you see that?
When I got on the phone and Crystal picked him up. That's when I got on the phone and told Beth to come, and Crystal even said that.
How far away were you? How far is the phone from where he was at?
From where I was at?
He's still in his chair, right?
Yeah.
And
then
the phone, where's the phone?
It was close to
How far is that?
I don't know. It wasn't that far though.
Okay. And Crystal was already in the room?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Monday though, he was sick. He didn't have a temperature.
When was that?
Monday.
Monday?
And we noticed me and Wendy, as soon as we got him up from the nap, he was clean. He was white and pale, and he was coughing. He didn't touch any of the snacks. We had pretzels, cheese, and juice. He didn't touch it, and Sandy and Beth were in there too on Monday, and they noticed that he didn't touch it, so I gave him oyster crackers. And took his temperature, it was normal. Waited a little while, and it was still normal. It was a 99 point something. And he, when I transferred all the kids on Monday, I had him because, I held him, and I noticed, he wasn't feeling good.
The reason that we were called in this incident is because Ben's skull was fractured. Okay? We're sure that somebody did this to him. Or it's a medical certainty that somebody's done this to him. What we need to know right now is if this was done by accident or did somebody intentionally hurt him.
Yeah, I would never put my hands on it. I'd never put my hand on the child.
Because there's one thing to hurt someone intentionally, to grab them and throw them up against the wall or swing them into the wall where they would hit their head. But it's another thing if someone dropped them or if they just try to discipline them and get out of control. But we need to get to the bottom of this because this could be a real serious thing. And if something ever was to be an accident, it's hard to say later after someone lied about a situation, because at the end of this investigation, we're going to get to the bottom of this, because this is all we're going to do. We have 40 people on our team. So we need to know the truth right from the get-go. Right now, every single person that works at your place is talking to 2 detectives. So we need to figure out possibly how his skull got fractured.
I wish I could tell you.
According to his parents, Ben had been very happy and active before he passed. He attended the daycare along with his twin and older siblings. Even Melissa herself initially admitted that he was fine and playful when she first saw him that fateful day. So how he went from that to being dead within a few hours was something no one involved in this case could unravel. No one except Melissa.
When we were speaking with the medical examiner in this situation, this wound that he had on his head is something medical certainty that would have happened right away when he started going into unconsciousness.
Something that couldn't have happened before he got to school that way. It's something that happened while he was there. Sean's trying to tell you that, you know what, medical evidence, it just doesn't lie.
Yeah.
Okay? That we're certain, based on, and when he says medical examiner, it means the coroner. They did an autopsy on Ben.
Yeah.
And there's definite medical scientific evidence, substantial. I mean, it's just not something like a tiny bruise. So for a skull fracture to occur, it would have to be a substantial blow, and not just a tap. Now, that's not saying that could have been done accidentally, you know, with a fall or something. Those situations do happen because there could be pre-existing conditions, other medical issues that we don't know about. But one thing we are certain about is that while he was in the care of the facility, this is when this happened, okay? I also, you know, and the reason we talk to you a lot and ask you all these questions about you as an individual and sit here and spend a great deal of time with you is that we deal with pretty evil people. You know, we deal with murderers. That's what we do for a living. So we can recognize evil people. We can recognize good people. Okay. Somebody who's in the healthcare industry, very rarely are they going to be in there for malicious or evil purposes. They're there to do what? Take care of children and do good, be what's called a caretaker, right? Definitely based, and that's why I was asking you kind of about your work history. This is something that's part of your career. You obviously are not an evil person. I can tell that. I mean, I can tell that the minute, you know, in our job, we have to, for our own safety, and just because it's the nature of our job, we have to do what's called immediate assessments of individuals. Because we only have a second to react sometimes, right? When we look at somebody like you, and that's what Sean and I have been having a couple of discussions. Here's a person that, under bad circumstances, bad timing, wrong place, wrong time, maybe indirectly have knowledge of something, but is compelled not to because they're scared. And I know this is big. And this is somebody's child. This is somebody who won't have a future. These are parents that will never see the child grow again. And in this situation, these are parents that are going to watch a twin sibling grow. And that alone is going to be painful because they're actually going to watch the twin of the child grow up not knowing what that child's future would hold or anything.
Because it would be pretty obvious that that would lead to his death. So in that case, I would be in trouble with the court. So most of the laws, if something happens on a tent, then there's everyday accidents. People get in accidents every day, like in cars, and there's a car accident, and the result is somebody dies, but the person who gets into an accident with them doesn't get in trouble. You've heard that before, right? So that's what the law is about. The law is all about if someone intentionally tried to do something to somebody. They
On
intended
purpose,
on
maliciously.
purpose. We
No.
think in this situation, we know that something happened that caused this injury to him.
Something perhaps got a little out of control or a misstep somehow.
Yeah.
We don't believe that's what
I don't
happened.
believe that
And I don't
either.
believe you believe that.
No.
But we also believe that you know a lot more than you're telling us. And please, for your
I
own sake,
am. I swear, like, there was no problem.
And to make it worse, one would expect that she would immediately come clean to the cops and help the parents find closure. Instead, Melissa pulls a common trick in the guilty person playbook: blame the victim. But the detectives give her one more chance to rethink her choices before they hit her with solid evidence.
I really wouldn't know, like,
let me ask you on the other hand, what do you think should happen to somebody who accidentally causes someone to die?
well, if it was like an accidental, like,
If it's an accident, they didn't mean for them to
Yeah.
die.
Right.
it's like
So-
really, it was like an
There
accident.
wasn't any, like Sean was saying, there wasn't
Yeah.
any intent, there wasn't any plan. Right? And that's what we firmly believe, that this wasn't intentional. We've investigated a number of these types of cases where not only caretakers but parents get out of hand, or inadvertently something happens, and they go into this denial mode because it's a traumatic thing.
Yeah.
It's a traumatic thing for everybody. It's
And-
very traumatic. It's a lot of guilt to live with for the rest of your life. It really is. And Sean is pointing out to you that we're not gonna just let this lie, and we firmly do believe that you either saw or somehow were connected to this injury. We really, really believe that, and we're trying to give you the opportunity to tell us.
I don't even know, so.
A lot of people, they talk when something like this happens, they talk to the police and they try to put up walls to distance themselves. But in the reality, it's hurting them because it would make somebody look more guilty that they intended on hurting this person.
I had nothing to do with it.
I don't think that you intended on hurting him.
I never put my hands on that.
And I don't think you're definitely not a mean person, but I have a son, and I swear to God, so many times I accidentally hit his head on stuff. Every time I walk through a frickin' door, I swear to God, I hit his head. He falls down all the time. There's always accidents. It doesn't make me a bad person at all. And if someone was supervising him or accidentally hit his head with something, it's not going to make you a bad person, but we need to get to the bottom of this. It happens all.
I'm like trying to, but like the only person that was with me at the time before all this was Nancy. So you would probably get to talk to her more.
Well, someone's talking to her right now.
Yeah. But I never, like, every time I would change his diaper,
Yeah.
I like treat his head, make sure he doesn't hit the changing table.
The shift in Melissa's composure, from sounding confident in her story at the beginning to putting up an emotional act, was simply a way to distract the cops from the real matter at hand. And her little story that Ben could have died as a result of throwing himself down doesn't add up.
It was me and Nancy. You probably have to talk to Nancy, I swear.
But you know when, was your sister in there before you were calling for help at all, Crystal? She wasn't?
Like when I called, when she came in, and then she put Ben on the changing table.
Was she in there prior to that incident when you called for help, when you said Ben, when you were screaming? Was your sister in the room?
No, she wasn't. No, yeah.
Would your sister hurt any of the kids there?
No, she has a son of her own.
Right. Would you cover up for your sister if she did hurt somebody?
No.
Okay. Even if it was an accident,
If it was me,
you would probably want
I
to
would
tell
have
the
say
truth
something.
so she wouldn't get in trouble.
I can't even imagine how he hit his head or who hit his head. Like, because, I mean, it's hard to, like, you know, I had my eyes on everybody, and he was in a wide open space, and I never, like, didn't do anything to him towards his head, nothing. But like I said, Nancy was in there maybe Nancy probably accidentally
Okay.
did something.
Okay. And that's what we're getting to. All right.
Yeah.
If Nancy did something and you have knowledge of that, you're helping us, you're helping yourself, that's phenomenal. But if you're being reluctant in saying something about Nancy, then you really are accepting part of the responsibility. That's what the perception is going to be. So if Nancy did something inadvertently and you feel that maybe a little guilty about not reporting it right away or not taking some kind of action, don't. You're not a doctor. You're not a doctor. You don't have x-ray vision. Kids fall or kids hit their heads 1,000 times. You know, I've got 2 kids, and the first one we treated like a China doll because we thought she would break. The second one would take tumbles all the time and and as you have more kids, you sort of grow immune and used to those types of injuries. If you saw something, and I'm starting to believe that maybe you did see something and you didn't take immediate action, that's not on you. You're not a doctor. But you need to tell us what you saw. And if it was Nancy, then we need to know that. That's very important. You're helping us. You're assisting us. That's going to benefit you, not just right now, but it's going to benefit you with your career and everything else that you came forward. You're a scared young lady. You got 2 detectives. You're in a place where you don't know what's what. I would be reluctant to say things too. But you got to trust us. We're not here to condemn you. We're not here to put you in jail. We're here to come to the conclusions of what happened. And if you have knowledge of that, you need to tell us. You need to tell us. You need to accept the fact that another person did this, and that's fine. But don't just speculate. You were there. You saw what happened. What happened? What happened?
Sometimes.
Not sometimes.
I know.
What happened yesterday or Wednesday? What happened Wednesday? What happened? You know something happened. You know something bad happened. You know something real bad, and you probably stood there going, I wonder if that's as bad as it looks.
With Nancy, like, sometimes, like, when she handles, like, when Ben usually cries, I'm saying this, she probably did it, like,
Not probably. We need exactly.
My back was turned, so she...
What did you hear?
I didn't hear anything.
It's absurd even to an untrained person how much she mentions her coworker, Nancy Callinger, who, unlike Melissa, was already cooperating with the cops in a separate interrogation room. But what is more disturbing is that this was the same person who rushed to her aid when she eventually raised the alarm. What the detectives would have to find out is why she would go to such disturbing lengths to falsely accuse someone who only tried to help her out. At this point, the detectives have no choice but to drop the nice act and start demanding answers.
I don't remember much. I'm still in shock. Like,
Right. Listen, I know you are, okay? Even worse than not telling the truth is half-truths, okay? It's half-truths. You know, you've got over this. Look, you're an adult, and you're a smart person. You're not stupid. You don't have memory loss. You're not in medical shock, okay? What you are is in denial, and you're thinking, I don't want to be here. I don't want to accept that this is happening. I don't want to accept that he's dead. I don't want to be anywhere. If you had a choice right now, you'd be as far away from us as possible in this whole situation. If you had a choice, you wouldn't have come into work Wednesday. You wouldn't have been there. But you know what? You were there. You were a victim of circumstance, right? So don't be an offender. You know what an offender is? That's a bad guy. Be a witness. Be a witness. And you know clearly and sharply in your mind, and no one is blaming you for not taking some action.
I'm swearing to you, I am not lying. I am swearing on my aunt's grave and my uncle's that I did not do anything.
By now, Melissa has given the cops more tears than truths as to her involvement in this case. But since she keeps mentioning her coworker, Nancy, the cops decide to humor her to see for a bit. And just as they thought, Melissa completely falls into their trap.
Did you go out with anyone from work after work since this incident happened?
No, I went straight home. I went straight home.
Did you talk to Nancy after this on the phone?
No, I gave her my
outside of
number.
work?
I gave her my number.
Did she call you?
No, she didn't. I told her to give me a call if she needs to. She never called me.
Okay. Did you ever see Nancy handle the kids roughly?
No, when she would put them down sometimes, she wouldn't support their head sometimes, and she would get a little intimidated and aggravated with the children because they would be crying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it happens, and yeah, I get
Sure,
aggravated
I get
a lot.
aggravated at my own son.
And of course they're gonna cry, and I'm like, oh my gosh, please, where's your binky? But when sometimes she would pick them up, sometimes she would have them, sometimes not handle that very well. And I know she has 2-3 kids. She has a toddler of her own that's in the other bigger room.
It doesn't mean nothing. It
Oh,
doesn't
I
mean
know.
they're going to be better with kids,
Oh,
or
I
it
know.
could be worse.
I know. And she would get frustrated.
I get frustrated. I mean, everybody does.
Yeah.
It's human nature.
But, and how she would sometimes pick them up. She wouldn't, support them. She would just pick them up and, hold them, as they're facing towards you. And, hold them like that.
Was Ben sleeping during his nap hour
Yeah.
when Nancy was there?
Yeah.
Was she mad at him and all that thing? No one was mad at him?
He probably woke up around 2.
Who's the oldest kid in the room? How old?
It would have to be, let's see. No.
Over
I
2
know.
years old?
No, if they were over 2 years old, they would have been in another room. And we have another set of twins, but they're gone for the month. They're the oldest. They would be the next move over.
If you were involved in this in any way, would you tell us if it was an accident? You would understand that
Yes,
we're not
I
out to
would
get you
complain.
and put you in jail. That's not, people think of police and they get scared. We're just out to get the truth of the matter.
I'm still trying to even think how he even got the fracture. I'm still clueless.
Right.
I wish I could tell you. I have no idea.
That's the same question we're trying to get an answer.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Did you look up anything on your computer at home about injuries to children's
No, I didn't.
heads, or if we
I didn't know
subpoena
anything.
your record,
Yeah.
would we be able to find out? Would we see anything about you researching anything about infant deaths or
Yeah, you
anything in the
wouldn't.
last couple of days?
Yeah, you wouldn't.
And we're not going to find out from your boyfriend that you told him that you made a mistake and you accidentally dropped Ben.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to find that out?
No.
Because if that's the case,
Yeah, no.
you got to tell us, Melissa,
Yeah, I know.
because we're not out to hurt you.
I know.
We don't want to hurt you, honestly.
Melissa, what if Nancy accuses you of doing this? Then what?
I'm gonna be questionable. I'm gonna be like, why? What did I do? I've been trained really well to actually do this. And I understand she's been there, but I've been trained really well. And I handle even little infants younger than he does myself.
No, I'm just saying, what if she facilitates,
And says that I did it.
yeah, so, hey, this is what I saw.
I'm gonna be like, well, why? Like, how? What did I actually do? What did
So
I actually...
there's no doubt in your mind that if she makes an accusation that she's not going to have anything to back that up with. No doubt in your mind that when Nancy, or she's being questioned right now,
Yeah.
says, look, I'm going to come up front with you guys. Melissa, she made a mistake. I saw it. I didn't know what to do. This is completely out of character for me. I should have said something, but it's her responsibility. She was in there the whole time with them. Yeah, this is what she did. Then what? Where are we at?
I would have been like, I would tell you. I would straight up tell you that I did make a mistake and I was too afraid to say something, I didn't know it would actually hurt him, and I would have came clean and even said to Miss Beth and Miss Sandy, here's what happened. And that this is what, his head hit the floor or wherever his head got hit, and I would have said, I am completely so sorry. I didn't mean to do this at all. That's what I would have said, and I would have came clean. I wouldn't hide nothing from no one. If I knew I was doing something wrong, or if I did something wrong, I would go up and I would talk to them. Because it would make me feel better.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily that you did something wrong. I mean, there's sometimes accidents happen, and I mean, they're unavoidable.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been in car accidents. Sometimes stuff's just unavoidable. So if that's the case, it's not like you did something wrong, but we need to get to the bottom of this. And I'm sure you understand, because if you held, you'd want us to be doing the same thing.
I'd be questionable and trying to figure out what's going on.
Right, and you'd want to know if you said, you left your child in a daycare system and somebody ran into an accident, and that led to your son, maybe he had some kind of special skull, or maybe he had previous injuries, I don't know. He was sick a couple days prior, but maybe this little accident is what caused it. It would just give them some closure, and it would help us clear this case out.
Yeah, we're not saying we don't know if there was a pre-existing condition and something, Sean's point is something may have aggravated it. There are strange physical anomalies, things with people that sometimes you don't know. I mean, there's a thing out there where certain adults have skulls that are like eggshells.
Okay.
And they go around their whole life without ever having a head trauma or a head injury. And then one sudden, hit or fall or hit to the head, and suddenly they're dead. There could be a pre-existing condition with him. The reason we're asking you about any other injuries that you may have noticed is that this is something that may have started and then been amplified. Okay. It's sort of like aggravating an old injury. And that may also give off the appearance of intensity.
Yeah. And like you said that too with the injury, he has had bumps on his head, but that wasn't from us.
I know that.
Mom even said, I seen him, Billy seen him.
Now curled up on her interrogation seat, Melissa attempts yet another deflection when she alleges that the bumps on Ben's head before his death weren't from the facility, painting herself as a diligent caregiver. But this facade is quickly shattered when the cops ask her the next question that puts a dent on her supposed diligence.
Places them on the cots. She wouldn't throw them.
But you said, sometimes she gets aggravated.
Sometimes she gets, she gets frustrated.
She handles them roughly.
Not roughly, but sometimes you could see the frustration in her face.
But you said sometimes, she won't support their head.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's almost like whiplash. I mean, if they're not supporting their kids.
If they're like this, and then she's just holding them on the outer side, and how she holds them sometimes. And then Ben, when you also too, here's the thing, when we would have to change his diaper, he's literally, you would have to carry and support his head because he throws his head back he was doing that quite a bit this week. In the beginning, he was just didn't even want anything to do. He was just like this. He didn't like it when we picked him up to change his diaper.
Who changed his diaper?
I did.
The entire day?
Throughout the entire day. I changed him in the afternoon. I believe I changed him in the second before that last time. And that was it.
Prior to Nancy leaving to sanitize the plates, you said about an hour prior to that, she was alone with the kids for a little bit.
Because I went to use the bathroom, but that was when all the kids were still in seating and snack.
Besides for that, did you step out of the room at all?
No, not even.
So go talk to your sister?
Nope.
Did your sister come in throughout the day?
She was in and out through the day. Yes, she was.
Did anyone ever report the way Nancy ever handled the kids there, or?
No, I thought they already talked to her, to tell you the truth, because I wasn't there that long. I haven't been there that long.
Who do you think talked to her?
Probably Sandy.
Why?
I just had a curiosity that Sandy would have talked to, or someone like Wendy would have talked to her, or someone else that would talk to her already.
Talk to her and what, say that's not how you handle the kids?
Just to I know you're frustrated sometimes, but
why would you say Wendy? Is she the type of person who would say something to her? Or
No, it's her classroom. So, you know, if
does
she
Nancy
was-
help her too? Or
yeah, she comes in at 9 and she starts breaks around like 9:10. That 9:10.
Has Wendy ever said anything to you?
No.
She hasn't?
No.
I mean, when I started, and when I'm sure when my partner started work as police work, other people that have been doing the job for a while, they'll tell you, well, don't do stuff this way, do it that way. You
They
ever
were
heard anything
telling
like
me
that?
to like help out. She was telling me sometimes to like help out, and then for art or if they eat and stuff like that, she would explain. She's like, we don't do it this way. Yeah, she said that, but nothing other than that. No.
Well, Melissa, just this whole time thing and this injury to his head was when you were alone with him. I mean, I don't know how you could convince us that he did it.
He was sitting, yeah. He was sitting. Like, there was nothing around him or anywhere possibly that he could have hit his head. I'm clueless. I don't know. No, I would
Don't be
never
afraid
do
to
that.
tell us.
I am not going to be afraid to tell you. If I drop somebody from the change table, I would be stoked and crying, freaking out. But I would go and tell.
Obviously, the inconsistencies in her story are difficult to ignore. This little lie eventually evaporates when the cops hit her with their first set of concrete evidence, the pictures.
Because there's certain things that could cause a certain injury.
Yeah.
You know, we actually have very good photographs of his injury.
Okay.
And then, even though it's
Was
not
it in
always,
the back of the head or in the front of the head?
That's what he asked.
I'm just kind of curious. That could have been the reason when she put him down. You know what I mean? So, like, for his head to kind of bounce a little bit, but, like, she didn't bounce him, like, hard. When she put him down, she was doing the CPR. I made sure I had the kids stand back. And I got all the kids out of the way. Because like I was saying earlier, I had the kids in the kitchen. So maybe, that's what could have happened when she was performing
did
CPR.
you see his head bounce?
A little, yes, I did.
And she was only trying to help.
Yes, she was trying to help him.
You just said you don't recall.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to explain. It's hard for me to explain.
That means that there's a possibility that
I did not, but I'm telling you right now, though, I did not pick up anything. I did not pick up anything. I would never. It's not my.
I never said you did pick up anything.
I know. I didn't, though. If that comes to the case, if people are saying that, I didn't.
Why would somebody say that?
You know what? I don't know. I don't pick up things. I make sure the kids are safe. I make sure they're taken care of, changed, healthy. Son's there, they're well taken care of. And the kids, they have like a plastic bat, little kid. He hits like things, that's it. The children had it.
But would a worker
No.
hit a kid? Did you lose your patience and hit him?
No,
Sure?
positive.
Because if you did, it's understandable.
No, I know.
It's very freaking stressful dealing with one baby. I know. I I never knew it till I had my own because I never watched babies in my life. But it fucking makes you lose your mind.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the best words. I'm not trying to not be professional. You can lose your mind sometimes because they'll go screaming. You're trying to get other stuff done, and that's only one. I totally understand why someone would do that.
We've had incidents where people just flat out black out. And the next thing you know, because they get aggravated, they get frustrated.
Yeah.
And they'll just flat out sit there and say, I just blacked out. And then, when I finally realized what happened, I composed myself and they just went on from there.
No, never blacked out.
No?
Nope.
What are the other workers? Are they ever going to say you hit someone?
No, they would never say that.
Why?
They've worked with me. I never put a hand on them.
Did you ever scream at a child?
I would be like, no, not nice, that's it.
Did you ever scream?
Scream, yeah. Scream, yeah. but not like scream, like violently scream. I'd be like, no, not nice, you know?
Right.
That's it.
Do you scream because you're losing patience?
Sometimes, yes. But if it gets out of control, when it gets out of control, yeah. I will say, no, not nice. And, you know, I get a little, you know, that little madness, but it's to a point where, you know, I'm telling myself, calm down, you know. They're kids, they're babies, they'll cry all the time, you know, it happens.
It's clear to both the cops and even Melissa herself that she's running out of lies. There are further questions that she needs to answer, like why she's suddenly volunteering information about the plastic bat only after she hears that autopsy photos exist. Evidently, she's doing everything within her power to keep her testimony straight, but sooner or later, she'd either have to drop the act or risk spending the rest of her life in prison.
I'm being completely honest with you. We find out, because we do this all the time, that lying to a person on our end doesn't achieve anything. Because if we get caught in a lie, our credibility is crap. You're not going to believe a thing I say as soon as you catch me in a lie, right? You got to look at it from our perspective. That's the way we feel about you. It's all about credibility and all about honesty.
Okay.
You know, it's like God forgives, we don't. Because once you've told a lie or continue to escalate that, it's worse and worse and worse and worse. And then at some point, when this all comes to fruition, and it will, it's either going to be through you, if it's through somebody else, and it will, by day's end, it will be. It would preferably be you who tells us exactly what happened and put yourself in a positive light. Don't let somebody else railroad you down the river. Don't let these exigent facts paint you into a corner. We believe that something happened. We just want to, you know, the problem with victims is they can't tell us.
Because they can't speak.
They can't. And now in this case, forever. Okay? But then we have to rely on everything else. We have to rely on science. That talks to us. Okay? But that only gives us a portion of the fact and the truth. Science can't tell us human emotion. Science can't tell us luck or probability or chances or bad luck or accidents. Science can't tell us all that to exact details. Only the person who was involved in that can tell us that. And that's why we're really sitting here frustrated a little bit, because I hope you understand, we're trying to give you every single opportunity there is. Every single opportunity there is to talk to us and clear the air on this thing and just put it to rest. So we can get on the phone, we can call our bosses in Lincolnshire and say, okay, Melissa's been straightforward with us. This is exactly what happened. Here's the timeline. We are convinced that this is what happened during this timeline, and we're done here. That's all we're asking. You know, if there was an injury that occurred, and by the time your sister, who, I'm telling you, in good faith, ran in there and tried to give CPR, bad people don't do that. They don't care. They walk away. They run away from that. They don't want anything to do with that, right? Bad people don't have a conscience. You know what I mean? The word sociopath or psychopath, it's one and the same. Those are people who have no emotions. They operate physically and mentally every day like normal people. You couldn't tell them, but inside they're dead. They have no feelings at all. You could not get away with that working in that environment. That's not you. You've got emotions. I saw your emotions here. You got upset. You have a conscience, right? You can express love. You can express hate. I'm sure you've got a love relationship with your boyfriend, your family. You probably love your sister. I think she got really worried and concerned about you leaving today. She loves you, okay? You have a lot of people supporting you, and you have a whole life ahead of you. How old are you, 21?
22.
22. Do you need to carry a burden like this for the next 60 years or whatever? Nobody does. And you know what? It's this type of thing that eats you up, and it's this type of thing that no matter what haunts your reputation, because there's always a question mark. There's always that question mark hanging over you.
What makes this entire interrogation more disturbing is the ease with which Melissa churns out lies after lies. And it's worrisome because this is someone who has been in close proximity to kids. Naturally, kids pick up different habits from their teachers or caregivers. So if she thinks it's okay to lie, even after several opportunities to tell the truth, one can only wonder what value she'll pass to the kids in her care.
But he was sitting up and he just like drops. And I heard him hit his head.
Where?
On the carpet, though. But
On the
it's
carpet or
cement.
the tile?
On the carpet.
Was that Wednesday?
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple of times he's done that when we say, no, not nice. And he will get upset. Like, he was sitting straight up and he would fall. Like, he would, seriously, fall completely and hit his head.
And what, did he get upset after he hit his head?
Yeah.
He started crying?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember what time he hit his head?
No, I don't.
Kind of approximate, maybe?
Yeah.
Was it?
Probably sometime in the afternoon before. Ahead of time before they had snack, maybe.
Okay.
Because he's
And what was it? I mean, I know you were saying that you guys have reading, you have playtime. What event was it during?
there was nothing going on. It was just playtime.
Okay.
Because when he got up from that, I saw him. He was awake. Picked him up. I was on the recliner, the rocking chair.
Right.
Just hanging out with him, and we were being silly or whatever. And I know later out throughout the day, he did something to a point probably where we would say no, not nice, and he took it very, very hard.
Did you say would that be you and Nancy or just you?
Grundy was in there too. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was after nap.
So what was he sitting on the floor?
He was sitting on the floor.
And can you, how fast or hard did he fall back?
Boom, really fast.
Right now, the detectives have had enough of the lies. They've given her plenty of opportunity to confess by herself, which she wasted. So instead, they decide to challenge all her false stories, starting with her lie about Gwen dropping the...
One of our teams is with a physician who specializes, in these types of injuries. He can look at the parameters of an injury, and based on the autopsy, that was performed yesterday. Do you know how an autopsy works?
They search and find.
They do
an examination or try to find out.
Without getting into graphic details, they basically dissect the body. Okay, and they look at every aspect of the body, from bruising. They photograph. They look at bruising. They run blood toxicology for drugs. When it comes to cranial injury, a head, they'll of course look at the skull. They look at the size of the brain. They measure it. They weigh it. Have you ever seen photographs of what something looks like, underneath flesh, where it's bruised or there's a clot?
Yeah.
Okay, it's very prominent.
Okay.
The entire process is very, very exact. They've been doing it for years. Okay, and I'm not going to go into forensics 101 with you with an autopsy, but they're able to tell down to the minute detail the extent of the injury, what could cause it, what couldn't cause it. The brain sits in a liquid mass. Okay, so when a person gets a concussion, you heard that term. What happens is the brain swells. There's fluid around the brain, and it expands, and that's why it makes your head really ache. Okay, literally it swells. When the brain is also injured, it can bleed, and in an autopsy, the blood forms at the point of injury, and you can tell based on the bone, the damage, because a skull fracture literally means this bone here is broken.
Broken?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And it's not that easy, especially in an infant or a young child, to break bone with mild impact because the bone is soft.
Okay.
Okay. So it's very flexible. In fact, the skull hasn't formed, so there's cracks where it floats and it moves. Okay. when you hit something,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in your little physics lesson, there's a cause and an action. Okay,
Yeah.
so like if you're sitting in a car and you get rear-ended, what happens? Your body flings forward.
And it goes back.
Correct. It's the same thing the head does in the brain. Okay, when you're hit back a certain way, the head flings forward. Okay, and what does that do? It shifts, and that'll cause bruising on the brain. Point of impact, where the brain gets hit, you know, is really going to be prominent.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm in the blood shop. You know, we examined photographs, and so is the doctor. You know, and they've been at the autopsy, and it's obvious that there's an injury to the back of the head. Okay, which is consistent with kind of what you said. However, two things that are inconsistent.
Okay.
The extent of the injury, under no circumstances, can be caused by that minor of an event,
Okay.
falling backwards.
Falling backwards.
Okay. Secondly, the front of the brain is also slightly bruised.
Okay.
So there's a whiplash effect.
Okay.
Thirdly, I made a comment to you, I don't know, somewhere earlier today where I described the fall or the injury being like somebody being dropped from the second floor
Yeah.
of a building. That's still the extent of the injury with a second independent opinion from an expert.
Okay.
Okay. So here's what Sean had
In
to
addition, Wendy doesn't recall him falling down and hitting his head.
Okay.
You were saying that she wouldn't pick him up.
Yeah.
She doesn't recall it at all.
Mhm.
Not that she doesn't recall, she says it didn't happen.
you need to clear the air here and tell us. You really do. And I know you've been sitting here thinking about it. You can't manipulate out of this. You really can't. You just need to come forward and tell us. You really do. Something frustrated you. Something happened. Okay? I know you didn't know the extent of Ben's injury. I know you didn't know that. And it's been eating you up these last few days.
With the last of her fairy tales confirmed to be false by Gwen's testimony, Melissa now has no place to hide. At this point, it's clear that she cannot manipulate these detectives as easily as she thought. And so, she decides to do the very thing she should have done from the beginning: confess.
It seemed like you're being deceitful to us.
And I took him out. I watched him. He was at the edge, and I heard his head hit the back of the table because I didn't fully put him down. It kind of almost like slipped when I dropped him, and he hit the chair. And then I heard it. And he didn't. It was fine though. I made sure that
The change between?
no, the wooden chair, of the wooden chairs.
Or the adult wooden chairs? Or
The
The baby
baby
chair.
chair.
Yeah. They have little straps in them.
He did the back of it.
You hit the back of with his head. That's okay. It's all we've been trying to get from you for this whole time. I know you're upset. Okay? I know that you're upset about this, Melissa. But stuff like this happens all the time. You didn't want intend for this little boy to die, right? And who knows? He could have had some pre-existing condition. You know, who knows? But
when you put him in the chair, were you holding him?
No, I
Okay.
just picked him up.
Where was he when you picked him up?
He was on the floor.
On the floor. And why did you pick him up?
Because I just wanted to put him in there and give him a snack right away.
Okay. And did you drop him? Is that what you said? Or
When I took him out of the chair.
okay, so you put him in the chair to get him a snack,
Yeah,
and then when you picked him up, you dropped him.
I kind of slipped. Yeah.
You slipped.
Yeah.
Okay, and you hit his head on the back of the top part of the chair.
Yeah.
And did he yell or scream?
No,
He didn't do anything.
when I checked his head, and it was fine.
Okay.
from now on, don't tell us the truth, and everything will be okay. Don't. That's fine.
It's fine.
We
know that. We know
understand
that.
that you're scared, and we were not lying to you here. We need to know the truth. It's going to help us, okay, Melissa? And promise me one thing, that you won't lie again. And I promise you, we're gonna make things as easy as possible on you, as long as you don't lie to us, okay? Why were you afraid to tell us he slipped? sure? You wouldn't do that? He just slipped in the back, his head hit the back of the chair. Why would he have some brute? Did he hit the ground after that, or what happened after he hit the chair? No, on his body, so he fell out of your hands?
When I put him down, I took him out of the snack chair, and then I went to put him up, and then like when I put him back, the other chair was behind him, and I wasn't paying attention. He slipped out of my hands, and he hit it.
How far did he slip?
Like a little bit, like what he said.
Don't exaggerate it to make it sound better. If it's an accident, it's an accident. You gotta tell us exactly, because we're gonna have to be able to prove
What you're telling us, scientifically, we know what I told you. So you need to really be specific about how he slipped and how far down.
It
So
wasn't that far to a point where it slipped, like he fell off balance, and then he hit his head.
In 2011, Melissa Kalasinski was convicted of first-degree murder for the death of Benjamin Kingen. Despite her defense team's argument that the confession was coerced and that Benjamin had a pre-existing head injury, the jury agreed with the prosecution's claim that she had thrown the toddler in a fit of frustration and sentenced her to 31 years in jail. Her legal team has made subsequent appeals to the Illinois Appellate Court and the Illinois Supreme Court to reopen her case, but the courts maintained that no new evidence sufficiently proved her innocence or justify overturning the original verdict. As of now, Melissa remains locked up at the Logan Correctional Center, while her legal team continues to explore avenues for clemency or further judicial review. She is currently serving out her sentence, with no option of parole until the early 2040s. Thank you for watching today's video. Don't forget to subscribe and check out one of the craziest cases I've ever covered right here.